All right, hey guys, Josh Beechraft here. Let's talk about something that is so overlooked, particularly in sales, but it's really all communication. And it's about how do you set somebody up to both listen and also like how do you set yourself up to listen? There's a simple 2mm shift that I can give you that will make this all very, very simple. It's part of a formula that I developed called the undeniable authority framework. And it's part of how I communicate. You see, what happened with me was I was a shy, weird kid in high school. And it wasn't until I met somebody who was a juggler that did a couple of magic tricks, and I fell in love with this idea of how these amazing miracles of magic could happen in front of somebody without them realizing what happened. And I got interested in it because I wanted to know how it worked, not because I wanted to do it, right? I didn't have any intentions of becoming a magician. I just wanted to understand how these things were possible, right? Then I started learning some of the tricks, and then people started going, show me a trick, right? And I often would tell them no, because I wasn't trying to be a magician. I was just learning the things and like, how does this actually work? I can do this thing with my fingers and somebody is in awe over it. That's weird to me, right? What it ended up teaching me was how to interact with people, right? Magic was a bridge for me to learn how communication worked, and it was also something that I had to learn audience control. And the way that you deal with audience control is you have to give the audience a certain ability to express while also setting them up to take in. And what developed out of this was a communication style that people would many years later, compliment me on as far as how I teach, as far as how I communicate and help them solve problems. And I didn't know what it was. They were like, you do it differently than other people. I was like, I don't understand that, right? So I reverse engineered it, and I came up with my undeniable authority framework, because that's generally what I do. I can very quickly become an undeniable authority in anything that I am particularly interested at. I'm a little bit obsessive. When I find something I want to learn, I learn everything there is to know about it. And I can very quickly be an authority. And then through this communication framework, I can impart that sort of learning onto other people in a way that they tend to understand, right? That's an awful lot of me telling you about me, but I want to give you the context for where this comes from. Within my undeniable authority framework, there's a number of pieces that include pregame, intergame, and then the actual execution of conversation. But there's one critical moment in that execution of conversation I'm going to talk about right now, and that is something I call option control. Option control is a very simple tactic. If you start using this, it will change the way that you're able to influence everybody. And the option control is simply this. If you're talking about anything serious, if you're talking about anything with clients or in business or anything, you simply ask them. So when I do it with clients, I ask them, is there anything top of mind that you want to discuss and make sure we go over before we continue? Right? Very simple question. Now, in a personal setting, it's like, hey, I really want to give you a chance to tell me how you're feeling, so I'm just going to sit and listen. And all you do is that. It's literally this simple, guys. Like, one of the things that a lot of us struggle with when we're communicating, particularly on things we care about, is we get emotional and we'll start going back and forth and we'll make it a conversation. The problem is conversations don't allow people to get their thoughts and feelings out. And sometimes people need to say those things out loud to understand that the thoughts they had in their head weren't actually connecting all the dots, right? And it's upon saying it that they realize that there's something else to understand. Also, because the tendency for humans is to say what they need to say, you give somebody that opportunity first, they'll get it out of their system, and the only thing they have left to do is listen, right? It's really, really simple. Like, when you really break down how amazing this one little thing is, you realize that you can win at just about anything. All you have to do is, once somebody's done talking, is just simply ask them, is there anything else? You'll talk less than you've ever talked, you'll get more information than you've ever gotten, and you'll be more productive in that conversation than you've ever been by deploying this one thing. So how does this go with any sort of meaningful conversation, right? I've talked about this before in other videos with networking. I dismiss what I do and just constantly ask about them. Tell me more. Oh, what is it that you do? Oh, I run a print shop. Cool. What's the coolest thing that you find about running a print shop, right? I just ask them to keep telling me things until they're exhausted at telling me. And then when it's time for me to talk, in networking, I generally wait for them to ask, because once somebody asks, then they're genuinely interested and they'll want to hear what you have to say, instead of just it being this obligatory, like, I'll listen to his noise now, right? Kind of thing. So you give people the chance to make their noise. In a personal conversation, it's a little more empathetic. Hey, I know that we're kind of contemplating this decision. I really just love to hear your thoughts on it right now, right? I'd really just love to know what you're feeling, right? And you just give that space and permission to express until they ask you to express. And if they don't ask, you simply say, is there anything else? And you say that until they say no. It's this simple, you guys. Until they say there's not anything else, and you go, great. Would it be all right if I give you my opinion? Of course. They're ready to listen. They've gotten it all out of their mind. They've pushed out all of the energy they had for it. You received it all. The only natural, normal thing to do would be to hear your thoughts about the energy they pushed out and received, right? So the 2 millimeter shift is, instead of talking like this, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, you sit back here and you just let talking happen at you, and you listen, genuinely. You just listen. And then when they're done, you shift it and you go, is it my turn? And then you bring energy back to them, right? That's the way that humans are supposed to interact. And what you find is, when you're in a position of authority, you have to control that dynamic, right? If you don't, particularly if you're on stage, in my case, as a magician, right? If I don't control that, the audience starts to run the show and I lose all ability to entertain. Same thing happens in a sales environment. Try to do sales at a restaurant or something. Magic at a restaurant is a nightmare, because the wait staff, they have no concept of what you're doing, and they'll interrupt, and it'll totally break everything, right? The same thing can happen with a sale at a restaurant, right? Wait staff is the enemy of the tension of conversation and focus, right? But understand that when you try to play this game of little bits of data back and forth on important topics, you're going to lose. You've already set yourself up to lose. The other reason that this is really important is a concept that Chris Voss talks about. And he talks about giving somebody the ability to say no to you as being of psychological importance. And here's his reasoning. Everybody has a certain amount of energy that they have every day to be able to make decisions. Your brain can only do so much in a day. Even if it can do a lot, it's still only so much. Making decisions is one of those things that burns a lot of sort of mental energy, if you will. So you ask somebody to make a decision in the affirmative of a yes, that actually takes a lot more brain power than for them to say no, because no is a protective stance, and it takes less energy because it's more common through the evolution of history. You literally have more brain dedicated to saying no to something than you do yes to something. I know, it might sound a little weird, but trust me, it's true. What you're doing, anytime you're giving somebody the permission to say no, is you're letting them stay in control. You're letting them keep their footing in the conversation and not be swept away by your influence. The same thing happens with this option control concept, right? When we do this and we literally hand all the power over to the other person, what do we say in that gesture? We say, I'm here to listen. I'm attentive to you. I respect what you're saying. I give you the respect to have the voice that you're about to have. And I'm genuinely curious to see where this goes. It shows them that you want to be in the room with them, that you're actually there for legitimate reasons. And that's going to lower certain things in the mind that would be looking for red flags and safety concerns and security concerns. Not physical safety, but just mental, emotional safety. Is this person going to try to hornswoggle me, or are they giving me a line of crap or whatnot? There's no line of crap that somebody's going to give you when they just give you the power to express in the way that you need to express. And it doesn't matter what that situation is. The less you talk, the more you gain, because now they're empowered to make the decision you might be leading them towards, right? They're not disempowered by your attempts at convincing them, right? They've told you everything that they need to say, and you go, is there anything else? And they say no. I say, great, would you mind if I respond to that? No, I'd love to hear it. Perfect, right? Like now I can be heard, right? And now my need as a human can be met in the way that I need to converse. And I say, great, I love that you said this, and this. Do you mind if I tell you my greatest fear? My greatest fear is that this, and this is going to lead you to an 8 out of a 10 when really you deserve a 10 out of a 10. And the way that me and the people I associate with get to that 10 is slightly different than what you said. Would it be okay if I explain it? Yes, of course. Let me know. Every time they say yes and they give you back the power, they're giving you back that same respect. And that's where you can have influence in conversations mutually, respectfully, and build trust while you're doing it. It's just as simple as this option control concept. Ask them, is there anything that's important to them? Or I'd love to hear the thing that's important to you. Whatever version of that it is, depending on the type of circumstance, let them express. Ask them if there's anything else. Let them continue to express until they say no. Then you simply ask for permission to talk. That's it. You'll get out your points. You'll have more information than you've ever needed to make your point more solid than ever before. And if you are wrong and you take responsibility for it in that moment and you allow them to influence you, you also build more trust and you also build more connection. You also have more influence. It's a really simple game, you guys. So give that option control thing a try. It's worked miracles for me, not just in my professional career, but in my personal career as well. Personal career, personal life. There you go. We'll see you on the next one.